Hello all and welcome back. It is time for round 2 of season 6 of the FRS. We are here with Xbox Division 1. It is round 2, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. This circuit spa has been featured in all 6 of the previous FRS seasons, or 5 of the previous, now on to the 6th. And here is the circuit itself, the longest of the calendar, 7 kilometers around, 19 wild corners, tons of elevation, and 2 DRS zones for your best overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and turn 5. Plus, there is an overtaking opportunity into turn 18. The highest top speeds of the season, 210 miles an hour down the Kemmel Straight. Now, the first of your 2 big overtaking opportunities. La Source, the first turn hairpin, a very short run from the grid boxes into this hairpin, so it's going to be a place to be very cautious to avoid getting caught up. And then, of course, down the long DRS straight, you head to the Lacombe Chicane, which is a nice right-left-right combination with a huge DRS straight leading up to it, so plenty of action and battling to be done there. Here are the tires coming up. The mediums are about 7/10 of a lap slower, and the hards about 1.4 seconds slower per lap than the softs. Very short lifespan in this 22-lap race, 6 laps for the softs, 11 for the mediums, and 15 about for the hard compound tires. Now, after round 1, Cryptic took over the championship lead in the Haas with QX Nemesis, defending champion in P2. LC Fighter in the other Ferrari is 3rd, and our teammate in the Mercedes, Queasy Pluto, came home 4th, ahead of Lawrence Bors in the Red Bull to round out the top 5 of the current championship. Of course, we're only 1 race into this season so far, so let's go ahead and get to it. Now we're going to jump out into qualifying where the rain is coming down, and we are having to start our qualifying session on the intermediate compound tires. So as we wind our way up to start our first flying lap, you can see LC Fighter in the Ferrari taking that wide line, trying to straighten out the exit as we try and get the car pointed in the right direction and ease onto the throttle and avoid some of the wheel spin. So pitching it down into turn 1, find our braking point and just kind of ease into the brakes. It's our first run in these damp qualifying conditions, so we're having to be relatively careful now. Flat out as we head down the hill into Eau Rouge and Radion, famous combination of corners. Flat in the dry, but you see big lift out, actually ran a little deep, had to fully lift out, so that cost us some momentum for the Kemmel Straight, which is the long straight. You can see we're already clipping over 200 miles an hour in rainy conditions, almost 207 as we hit the brakes into the Lacombe Chicane here. So there's the right, the left, and then this last little right is easy to get the rear of the car a little unstable through this area. You run out onto this curve in dry conditions. Now hard on the brakes for Rivage, a very tricky corner, downhill, turning right the whole way, easy for the car to start understeering and running out wide. And then you've got No Name, a slow, a little bit of a clumsy left-hander as you get ready to head down into Pouhon. So you spend basically the entirety of the first part of the lap climbing, and now we're in the section where we're going downhill. This double left-hander, Pouhon, very quick in dry conditions, now just trying to feel our way around in the wet conditions. Find about the entry point of the curb there, break down for this next chicane as we get ready to start the final part of the lap. Hard on the brakes for Stavolo, turn in right for the first of these 2 right-handers, and then on the throttle through Paul Frere corner. Just ease onto the power, use as much of the track as possible to keep the momentum up, and flat out until we get to the fast left-hander that is Blanchimont right about here. It's going to be a lift, downshift in the white conditions, just run it right out to the curb. And then the final corner and the last overtaking opportunity, the bus stop chicane. You brake and slow way down for this one. Flick it through the right and the left. Get the car rotated. Get the power down as LC Fighter goes to the top of the tables. We do a 55.538, which is, the time is good enough for 4th place overall. We're going to try and go back-to-back laps, but big snap of oversteer on the exit, and that's cost us a huge amount of time. And with the driver behind us having just done a lap that was about 3 seconds faster, we decided to jump on and not do a further lap. But at the tail end of the qualifying session now, only just under 2 minutes left to go. You can see we're on this red-marked soft compound tires. The rain has stopped, so now we are got 1 chance to put in a lap time on these slick tires. So down into turn 1, carry 3rd gear, get the car rotated, and now on full throttle. You can see already picking up about a second just from the dry conditions. There's plenty of time to be found in this one. Flick it left, then right up the hill through Eau Rouge and over the top of Radion there. And open up the DRS, which is now enabled with the drier conditions. Over 210, 212, 213, almost 215 miles an hour now into the braking zone for the Lacombe Chicane. So very fast there. We Lima Bean is setting the purple sector, and we just run a little bit too much over that curbing. That is going to result in an invalidated lap time. So our one shot to get a dry qualifying time in is going to go away from us. So unfortunately, no lap time set for us. We are going to be starting towards the back of the grid. I decided to carry on with the lap as we flick through Puan just to see what kind of lap time I could put in. So I could at least compare it to where I would be on the grid with the rest. 14 drivers on the grid today. And we are going to be coming from the back.
30 seconds left in the session.
So now you can see how you get full on the throttle through Paul Frere here, run it right out to the outside curbing there. So very easy to make a mistake. It's a tough corner in the race conditions when you're carrying that extra bit of fuel. And we are going to flick through Blanchimont, that quick left-hander, already over 200 miles an hour, and then find our braking point for these last 2 corners. The bus stop chicane, get the car rotated, throttle down, DRS open, just across the line, and we go to a 44.6. And that will be the end of qualifying for us. Our teammate, Queasy Pluto, put it on pole position. One of the last ones to do a flying lap. Cupid's Nemesis starts on the front row as well. Lawrence Boers, 3rd. Habsfan Nick, 4th. Issei, 5th. Spenwolf, 6th. Seung, Lima Bean, That One Kid, and Heinous Lime rounding out the top 10. You can see NFC Vickers, a rookie. Summon Mania, a rookie. And then LC Fighter and myself did not get to set a dry time. We were invalid on our slick attempts, so we're starting at the back of the field. So we've got a Mercedes sandwich in this one. Now here we are with the 5 red lights coming up, waiting to get away from the line. Since we're at the back, we're starting on the hard compound tires and just going to take it nice and easy. You can see we actually got a pretty good launch compared to the cars ahead of us, but not really getting into the throttle. NFC Vickers has a mistake. Issei is around behind us, and we're going well around the outside of turn 1. LC's had a little bit of a mistake. We're not forcing any kind of issue in this one. We're just going to drive through and try and keep it smart. You can see I'm already actually lifting out and slowing down, coming through a Rouge, as That One Kid was a little bit slower than us. You see he's lost a ton of momentum. Now the overtake is on. We're going to attempt to make a move down into the Lacombe chicane. So you can see we've cleared him there. Big lift out, get on the brakes nice and early. A little bit of a lockup from the McLaren in front of us. So we're going to keep an eye out for mistakes being made, as we've already climbed up to 11th place, nearly inside the points paying positions at this stage. We are expecting a fully dry race here for this one, so we should have seen the last of the rain in the qualifying session. You can see just kind of easing it around. Now you see I'm underfueled by about 1/10 of a lap. My goal was to underfuel by 1.1 laps, but I apparently just chose the wrong number. I went to 21.8 instead of 20.8. So I am carrying a little bit more fuel than I would like to for this one, since you do run essentially kind of net negative. There's a big cluster of cars in front of us that we are very likely to catch up with quite soon. We are running an extreme setup. We're running very, very low downforce, so you'll see we have tremendous straight line speed. You see we're catching up to this group massively. I've already switched off overtake, already lifting out of the throttle just to settle in, because it is a bit of a kerfuffle in front of us and I don't want to get involved too much. Now we are going to try and see if we can find a door. We're lifting and coasting the whole way in, but big lockup from the McLaren, and we're going to go down the inside. Heinous Lime is around. The McLaren turns right into us. Seong is caught up by LC Fighter. Luckily we avoided any kind of damage from Salmon Mania turning directly into us on the inside of the chicane there. So we are up now to 9th place. He's got another lockup, and Seong nearly gets into the back of us there. Very close in the rear view mirrors, as I was right behind the McLaren, just double checking the MFD on the lower right there, making sure that there is no front wing damage. And now we get to come up the hill, and now you can see the straight line speed that we have. In the slipstream, no DRS even available yet, but you can see 210 miles an hour just on the strength of the overtake and the slipstream already. Easy peasy down into the Lacombe chicane. Nice move up into 8th place. There are yellow flags behind. It looks like Salmon Mania, though, as a result of us running this very low winged setup, this middle sector is a little bit tougher to handle. We don't quite have the grip through the twisty turny bits. But if we don't put a foot wrong, if we just kind of maintain the racing line, it's very hard to overtake through that section. So you'll see him kind of close up through some of these corners as we pick up our second track limits warning, although the first one was a result of being forced off the track in the chicane there. So if it came to it, I could have the opportunity to appeal that track limits warning. But LC Fighters 1.6 ahead, Spenwolf 2.6 ahead as we go very deep through there, try and get back on track. And that's cost us some serious momentum to Sam Amedi. You can see he's closed up about a half a second through that one corner. But we're going to flip on our overtake mode, and you can see just how much more leg we have down the straight with these low wings. It's enough to stay flat out through Blanchimont, flat out through Eau Rouge and Radion. But we've managed to handle business, and we are up from 14th to 8th. And coming into this race, after the mistake that was made in Spain that resulted in us being outside of the points, I was really just looking to drive a race, especially starting last, that would score some points. So even if these guys started coming back at me pace-wise, which I won't expect them to, as my hard tires should last a fair bit longer than them on the mediums, I'm happy to be in points-earning positions at this point. We're going to jump ahead a few laps as we were kind of just going around lap 10 of 22. You can see we're running in 7th place now as we've cycled a little bit more forward. Issei is up into 8th. We're just keeping an eye as we start to get in the pit window on Issei. We're on the same tire strategy. We aren't catching Spenwolf. You can see he's now 5.7 seconds ahead. But now you can see Lawrence Bour's in the pit lane on the timing tower there, so he's on the mediums, switching to the hards. We're going to see if we can catch anybody else up. QX Nemesis is in the pit lane, as is Habs Van Nick. So the leaders on the medium tires coming in to make their pit stops. We're in range to put on a set of mediums and go to the end should there be a safety car. And there you can see the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo just ahead. So we are closing up to the back of them, and they're going to be on colder tires, so they're going to have some momentum troubles coming up the hill. You can see just how much Nick has to lift out. And we are within the 1 second, so overtake mode on, flip open that rear wing, and away we go. And now you can see the real legs that we've got. Almost 215 miles an hour down into the chicane here, and we've caught right up to the back of QX Nemesis. We're running 5th now, however, we have yet to make our pit stop. My strategy at this point was to see where Issei was running, since we were on the same tire strategy, but I had about a 6-second advantage on them. I was essentially just going to be content with where I was, running 7th, and then just react to whatever their strategy is one lap later. So I knew I was managing the tires quite nicely. It wasn't taking too much life out of them. So I was just going to, instead of worrying about being undercut, let them, as soon as they come in for a pit stop, I was going to pit the very next lap, because I had held onto the tires very well on these hards, and it wasn't really an issue. I'd have the gap ahead of them, and overall pace between us seemed to be very, very similar. But you can see we've lost the DRS range to QX Nemesis. We are burning some of this battery to try and open up a little bit of daylight from Habs Van Nick, who is about a half a second off the back of us. We are actually closing up so quickly on this back straight. We are going to just about get inside DRS range, the 1 second margin to QX Nemesis. You can see we've actually got the DRS available to us, so it'll flip open as we come down the pit straight. Our teammate is in the pit lane right now, just making their tire change. Our race engineer in-game is saying we are within our pit window. Queasy Pluto having a big snap of oversteer, lucky to keep it out of the wall. We're going to go right on past. Habs Van Nick is going to have the momentum as well, but we are going to have the Queasy be in the DRS of us. So I'm going to go ahead and use overtake, make sure that Nick doesn't overtake me, so I can try and kind of slow him up a little bit while our teammate is getting their tires up to temperature. You can see just how much extra grip Nick has on the braking zone there with the extra downforce and with the fresher tires. Queasy still working to get those tires up to temperature, but like I said, through this middle sector, I may be much slower on these higher wing or lower wings, but if I don't put a foot wrong, if I don't open a door to send up the inside, it's very difficult for the car behind to make a move, even in quick corners like Puan here. So down into the corner, you can see just how much extra grip that Nick has closing up, and I think at this point I knew that it was pretty much curtains. So I swing to the outside, brake late, leave the door open to let Nick go up the inside. That's costing me a little bit of time, but what that is going to allow, it's going to put me directly in front of my teammate with a healthy bit of gap where I'm not going to be costing them any kind of time or momentum, and I'm going to be giving them a nice healthy slipstream. So I'm going to use my ERS, burn whatever I've got left in the battery here, and try and maintain a little bit of extra speed so they can use that tow effect. And I'm going to let them slingshot right past me into the bus stop chicane, and that has actually put them pretty much right on the gearbox of Habs fan Nick. So a little bit of team play on that one, working together. Spen is into the pits, and we should be coming out just ahead of them, but they are have made their pit stop done now. So we likely, under green flag conditions, are not going to take the position. You can see now that Habs fan and Queasy have gone by me, Issei's back on the timing tower on the left. 5.4 seconds the margin now, so I lost about a second letting these other two drivers through and helping my teammate with that slipstream. But it was margin that I was happy to give up because it's not a 5-second undercut around here. At most, I would say Issei's probably going to pick up a second or two if he undercuts me by 1 lap. And since I'm ready to react, then I will do that. But 13 of 22 laps in the books already on this one. And we are getting close to where we need to start thinking about making a pit stop. The hard tires, as I said in the pre-show, can go about 15 laps at full racing speed tops. I think I've been a little bit more gentle on them than I did in my testing that had told me 15 laps was the maximum. Lawrence boards, you can see closing up on those younger tires as well. So we're just kind of shuffling back to our expected position as those drivers that were much further ahead, having already made their pit stops, are now working their way back up to the back of me, getting their tire temperatures up to where it needs to be. You can see our fuel mix showing plus 0.67. That's not what we wanted in this race. We wanted actually very much under-fueled, and our battery is actually running quite low now as well. 11%, now down to 10% as we are losing a bit of pace. Quick look at the tire life, still just at about the 50% margin. Once it gets over about 60-65 is when the grip really starts to fall off aggressively. And then, of course, once you're over 75, that is when you start to get into trouble with potential punctures. But lap 14, we're going around. I see that Issei is in the pits, so at this point I am making the mental note that I will need to box at the end of this lap, make that tire change, and come back out on the medium. So up the hill we go with Lawrence just behind us. They're going to have DRS on us. We are running very low on battery power, so we're not going to have quite the straight line speed. I'm just going to move to the inside, let them through. It's not the car we're really racing. I'm lifting off very early. You can see Issei comes out about 23 seconds back of us now. And there, Nemesis right there on the right side. Nemesis out of the session is crashed coming out and DNF'd. So a full safety car is called, and right when we were expecting to make our pit stop. So go ahead and jump on the radio and tell our engineer that we are boxing this lap. It wants to set a set of medium tires. We have about half the lap left to go before we get there. We're on lap 14 of 22. Now, in the initial part of the show, said that soft tires could do about 6 laps at full green flag pace. Now, we're on lap 14 of 22. We're looking at about 8 laps left to go in this one. We are going to have a couple of laps under safety car conditions, and I do make the decision coming up here that I am going to gamble. Being on the same compound of tires, it's not going to be too much of a benefit to the cars around us, so we are going to kind of roll the dice. We're in a position where the safety car strategy has helped us out. You can see me pulling up the MFD. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm going to go ahead and opt for the soft compound tires there. Boom, new set of softs, because of course we have extra sets of new softs because we had to run some laps in qualifying on intermediate tires, so we didn't use up those softs. But into the pit lane we go. It's about a 10-second gap to spend behind us. LC Fighter is also going to take that nice cheap pit stop, and we just ease our way in, and we should have a nice clean pit stop. Didn't quite hit the purple, but green is good enough. No big mistakes. New tires on, out the pits we go. Spen is already cleared us, so we should come out just behind them, but well ahead of Issei, so no problems there. We're still up into 6th place overall, and now we are on a set of soft compound tires that we are going to have to manage a little bit to get to the end of this race, but we should have plenty of grip on this one as we come back out and join the train. Now, we'll hop ahead now, lap 17 of 22, so we did about 3 laps under safety car conditions, as we are being told that the safety car is going to come in this lap, and we should get back up to speed. I was very, very careful on these pace laps. I was not putting any heat into the tires until this lap to try and avoid any kind of extra degradation than was necessary. So now I'm going to work on bringing them up to temperature, do some weaving. Just need to get them up above 82 or 80 to 82C on the cores, and that should give us plenty of grip as we are just waiting for the group to go. We're making sure to not rush too much if we fall back. I don't want the cars behind to think we've restarted at this point. So the race leader has yet to restart. We're right at about 79C, so not full good temperature yet, but it'll be easy. It's close enough to where we should have enough grip. And of course, with cars around us being on harder compounds, the mediums and hards, they're going to have even more trouble with warm-up. But now the race leader has gone. We come out of the final corner. You can just see the launch we get off of that last corner. So 4 laps of racing left to go in this one. And you can see our fuel mix now plus 1.7, so way too much fuel. We're being nice and gentle through here. Nothing really to push too hard on in the first lap. We aren't going to really make an overtake in the first lap, but we are going to be setting up Spen to try and go for an overtake on the next lap. But you can see the straight line speed advantage that we have on these other cars because of the wings that we're running. And I am trying to manage the tires still a little bit, so I didn't want to go full attack. I wanted to kind of bring them in slowly and make sure they get up to temperature before we went full attack mode. But you can see we've got the soft tires are helping to offset that reduction in performance that we have from having less aerodynamic grip. The soft tires give us a little bit of extra mechanical grip in these corners, and you can see we're right on the tail end of Spen at this point. Very aero-dependent corner, and we've managed it quite well. We've got plenty of battery in the pack at the moment, as we are going to try and just close up and put ourselves in a position. If we can get close enough to Spen to go at him into the bus stop chicane, that will be ideal. Otherwise, we should have an easy run up the Kemmel Straight. No DRS for 3 laps, but here we are out of Paul Frere. He's gone a little bit wide and cost themselves some momentum. So overtake is on, and you can see just on the relative gaps of the cars how close we're going. We're going to flip off overtake so we can get through Blanchimont flat out. We don't have to lift to try and account for him being a little slower. Around the outside we go. I'll find that 100-meter brake marker board. We're going to go very wide to allow some space for them on the first apex. They're going to try and cut back underneath us, but we park it a little bit on the second apex, and away we go. Now the cars ahead of us, our teammate Queasy and Lawrence battling out ahead, so that's going to slow them up as LC Fighter is sneaking through as well. And we should have an opportunity to attack. Spen is all over the back of us, but look at how we pull away once we get the battery deploying. We can just launch away from them with our straight line speed advantage. Gone a little bit wide there. Have to gather up the car a little bit through Eau Rouge. But now we are looking at Lawrence. We're not quite close enough to really make a big lunging attack on them, so we're going to go ahead and just relax behind and once again just try and set them up to take the position on the next lap. We're running in top 5 now, 5th place in this race after having started 14th. So at this point, anything is a good day, and the gamble on the softs is exactly what it is. It's a gamble. So we're going to try and set up Lawrence the same way we set up Spen the last lap. Although it looks like Lawrence on the hard compound tires is we have Vickers out of the session, and that is going to be a very late safety car call. Lap 19 of 22, and there is another set of yellows. So that is certainly going to allow me to get these soft tires to the end of the race now, because we're going to do an extra lap at least under safety car conditions since the field is so close. And now here we are. Lap 20 of 22. Safety car in this lap. We're going to get 2 green flag laps before the end of this one. We're still a little cold on the rear tire temperatures. I'm going to try and weave and get those up. Front tire temperatures are just about on the margins. And we are going to see what the race leader, Habsfan Nick, opts to do in the front at the restart of this one. 5th place, so top 5 finish on the cards here. Making sure our brake bias is set for the corners as Spen is closing right up to the back of us. And there they go. Nick has actually taken off. We have to get straightened out. The power goes down, and it's actually caught Spen out a little bit. We've lost a bit of ground to the cars ahead. And it was a little hard to pick the braking point. I decided to opt for caution as opposed to going too deep, as our teammate Queasy is wide off the track there. And Habsfan Nick actually loses the car out of the final chicane. You can see we're up to 4th place now. So the leader has lost the car in the final chicane, and now we're looking at podium positions in front of us. 1, 2, and 3 all running line astern. We've got the speed to build a gap in straight line over Spen. and we've got the tire temperatures up. Now, we don't want to do too much over-attacking of our own teammate in this one, but they've got a very good run on the Red Bull of Lawrence up ahead. They're going to the outside. Lawrence squeezing a bit as they try and each take their claim to the track, and it looks like Queasy is going to sweep around the outside and take that position away, and now is going to be looking to try and gun for the race win in this one. And we are right on the back of Lawrence now. We've only got 2 laps left to go of Green Flag Racing, and the soft tires are really starting to lose their magic at this point. So we've got to try and push on and see if we can close the gap to Lawrence in this one. But Lawrence has run very wide there, and you can see on the top time he now has a 3-second time penalty. So Lawrence Bohr's ahead of us now with 3 seconds worth of time penalties. We are carrying 2 warnings at this stage. So we are in danger of a track limits penalty ourselves if we're not careful. But at this point, with the tires going off and the car in front of us having made that mistake and picked up that time penalty, it's more about bringing the car home safely for the podium. Lawrence now, we just have to stay within 3 seconds over this final lap and a third, essentially. So we're going to go ahead and use a bunch of that battery power to use our straight line speed to get closer. But like I said, soft tires are pretty much toast at this stage of the race. Down into the bus stop we go. We are quite close about there, and of course there's going to be no DRS because of the safety cars. So you can see just how much more launch now that the hard tire runner is getting out of that final corner than we are on the softs. Just because of that extra degradation. But get the car rotated into turn 1 to start the final lap of the race. And we are within 1 second of the car. Has Spenwolf, though, inside of a second of us. We still need to keep our eye on the rear view mirror. However, we've spent the entire race able to defend with our straight line speed, where you've got plenty of battery, and you can see already opening up just over a second now is the margin. We're going to try and close up to Lawrence. Maybe they make a mistake and we can slip on through, but it isn't going to be necessary for our final position in this race. Looking at a double Mercedes podium at this stage with LC Fighter out front fighting with our teammate Queasy Pluto. Now, our last time through this middle sector, you can see Spenwolf on the timing tower in our rearview mirror, very much closing back within that 1 second margin to go in this one. Getting some more battery power as we shoot down the hill towards Puan into that double left-hander. Very cautious. We give up almost a full second, a half second to Lawrence. Queasy, though, has made a mistake, has 3 seconds of time penalties themselves. And we're sitting at a 2.7 second margin, so if we get a shift on, we might even take away P2 from our teammate. However, Queasy is higher up in the standings after a P4 finish last race, so I'm going to try and close up to Lawrence, but I don't want to overtake that position and cost my own teammate any further points. So here we go, and I know at this stage he's got much better grip through the final chicane. Should have a couple tenths. Somebody has taken out the 100-meter braking board. I've actually gone very deep there and made a mistake, but sneaking out of the final corner, Queasy has a very good exit as expected. We have a poor exit on our worn tires, and we sneak past by Spenwolf into the podium positions, and we are actually only a couple of tenths off of Queasy Pluto, who was 4 seconds, or just 1 second on track behind LC Fighter. But there it is. LC Fighter takes the race win in round 2. There's a double Mercedes podium. My teammate Queasy and myself in third. Spen in 4th. Issei in 5th. Lawrence Boers is 6th. Seong in a reserve roll up to 7th. Heinous Lime is in 8th. Habsfan Nick in 9th. Salmon Mania in 10th. And that one kid, the only car to finish the race without scoring a point in P11 as Lima Bean, NFC Vickers, and QX Nemesis are your retirements from today's race. So unsurprisingly, the game gives LC Fighter Driver of the Day, coming from second last on the grid next to me up to the race win. So the deep on the grid strategies seem to work out quite nicely for us, so we're quite happy with that one. But here comes LC Fighter making it a Ferrari win, even though his defending champion teammate was once again bit by the Spa-Francorchamps curse. QX Nemesis has had some tough results here in Spa, but there it is, the Ferrari team relatively celebratory, and there we are on the podium to spray the champagne for the first time since Season 4 officially. We did have some podiums in the FRS Cup events, but Season 5 we went without a podium. I believe we had 2 4th place finishes early in the season, but It was one of our roughest seasons overall. So it was a good result today. It has been a while since I've been around Spa, but it felt good to have a very good drive. Pace felt pretty good. I definitely wasn't on the pace of guys like Lorenz or Spen. They were a little bit quicker, but strategically was able to turn in a very good result there. So I'm quite happy with that one. And there's your final order once again. LC, Queasy, myself, Spen, Issa, Lorenz Bors, Seong, Heinous Line, Habs Van Nick, and Salmon Mania rounding out the points paying positions. Now, we are back to racing once again next week. We are going to be headed to Circuit of the Americas. So Austin is the next race, and I'll catch you guys that next time. Peace.